Welcome to Ace My Exams Learning. Let us get started with today's learning.
Black consciousness started a movement that filled the political vacuum in the 1960s and continued to successfully challenge the apartheid government in the 1970s. Do you agree with this statement? Substantiate your answer with relevant historical evidence. Interpreting the question. The question asks, do you agree that black consciousness filled the political vacuum in the 1960s and successfully challenged apartheid in the 1970s? Substantiate your answer with historical evidence. This requires you to take a position, agree or disagree with the statement. Explain your reasoning, provide historical evidence to support your argument. Focus on two key aspects. 1. Show how black consciousness addressed the lack of organized leadership after the ANC and PAC were banned in the 1960s. 2. How the black consciousness movement actively resisted apartheid during the 1970s through its philosophy, actions, and influence on major events. Use the approach below to answer the question. Step 1. Provide context. Begin by explaining the political vacuum created in the 1960s. After the ANC and PAC were banned in 1960, and key leaders were imprisoned or exiled, and organized resistance against apartheid declined. This created a void in leadership and a sense of despair among black South Africans. The emergence of the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM, led by Steve Biko, was a response to this vacuum, offering a new philosophy that restored hope and resistance. Step 2. Explain the philosophy of black consciousness. Highlight how BCM's ideology instilled pride and self-reliance among black South Africans. Explain Biko's message, "Black man, you are on your own," which encouraged black people to reject white-dominated systems and internalized oppression. This psychological empowerment became the foundation for renewed resistance. Step 3. Discuss BCM's role in political organization. Detail how BCM fostered political activism. Formation of SASO and SASM. BCM empowered youth through organizations like the South African Students' Organization, SASO, and South African Students' Movement, SASM. These groups provided platforms for activism and built a network of resistance leaders. Youth mobilization. Discuss how these organizations trained and inspired young black South Africans to lead protests and resist apartheid laws, culminating in significant events like the Soweto Uprising. Step 4. Highlight community projects. Explain how BCM initiated practical projects to promote independence from white-controlled systems. Zanempilo Health Clinic offered healthcare to black communities. Ginsberg Educational Trust supported education for black South Africans. Zimela Trust Fund provided economic support to black entrepreneurs. These initiatives demonstrated that black South Africans could build self-reliant and dignified communities, countering apartheid's narrative of black inferiority. Step 5. Examine BCM's role in major events. Focus on the Soweto Uprising of 1976. Describe how BCM's philosophy influenced black students. Explain how SASM and the Soweto Students' Representative Council, SSRC, organized protests against the Afrikaans language policy. Highlight how the uprising, although met with violence, marked a turning point in resistance and drew global attention to apartheid. Step 6. Address the role of media. Explain how sympathetic newspapers like The World amplified BCM's message, spreading awareness of apartheid's injustices and encouraging resistance. Step 7. Conclude strongly. Summarize how black consciousness filled the leadership gap in the 1960s by providing a philosophy of empowerment and practical solutions for independence. Argue that BCM's role in community development, labor activism, and major resistance events like the Soweto Uprising proved its success in challenging apartheid during the 1970s. Below is a full written essay to the question, using the above question approach guidelines. Black consciousness started a movement that filled the political vacuum in the 1960s and continued to successfully challenge the apartheid government in the 1970s. Do you agree with this statement? Substantiate your answer with relevant historical evidence. The statement that black consciousness filled the political vacuum of the 1960s and continued to successfully challenge the apartheid government in the 1970s offers a crucial perspective on South Africa's struggle to end apartheid. Following the banning of the African National Congress, ANC, and the Pan-Africanist Congress, PAC, in 1960, the apartheid government intensified its efforts to suppress political resistance. Key leaders were imprisoned or exiled, and political gatherings were banned, creating a void in organized black resistance. This left many South Africans without a clear path or platform for challenging the apartheid regime. In this context, the Black Consciousness Movement, BCM, led by figures like Steve Biko, emerged to fill this vacuum. Black consciousness, BC, instilled pride, identity, and resilience among black South Africans, empowering them to confront the psychological and social oppression imposed by apartheid. This essay agrees with the statement, contending that black consciousness not only filled this political void, but also inspired substantial resistance through political organizing, labor strikes, community development projects, and its influence on major events like the Soweto Uprising. Through these avenues, black consciousness continued to challenge and destabilize the apartheid government throughout the 1970s. One of the main reasons black consciousness was so impactful in challenging apartheid was because it addressed a critical need for self-empowerment in a politically repressive environment. After the ANC and PAC were banned, and their leaders either jailed or forced into exile, many black South Africans faced a sense of isolation, fear, and disempowerment. The government's crackdown restricted nearly every outlet for organized opposition, effectively silencing many voices of resistance. Black consciousness sought to change this, and under the leadership of Steve Biko, it introduced a philosophy that encouraged black South Africans to reject internalized oppression and embrace a new sense of pride. By urging black South Africans to view themselves as agents of change rather than victims of oppression, Black conscious provided a powerful foundation for resistance. This philosophy argued that black people did not need white approval or leadership to effect change. Instead, they could find power in unity and self-reliance. This ideological shift became the cornerstone of a new resistance movement, laying the groundwork for broader challenges to apartheid. Building on this philosophical foundation, black consciousness fostered political organization that further disrupted the apartheid status quo. In 1968, black students began to organize under the principles of black consciousness, breaking away from the National Union of South African Students, NUSAS, a largely white-led organization that many black students felt did not represent their interests. These students founded the South African Students' Organization, SASO, an organization dedicated to promoting black consciousness ideals and fostering a new generation of politically active black youth. Under Biko's leadership, SASO expanded to high schools through the South African Students' Movement, SASM, providing both university and high school students with a platform to discuss and organize around black consciousness principles. By empowering young black South Africans to lead their own political organizations, BCM created a powerful network of activists who would spearhead resistance in schools, universities, and communities. This network not only filled the political void left by the ANC and PAC's absence, but also rejuvenated the struggle against apartheid, making it clear that the spirit of resistance was alive and growing. The black consciousness movement's influence extended beyond political activism into labor organization, challenging apartheid at the economic level. In the early 1970s, unions began to adopt black conscious philosophy, empowering black workers to demand fair treatment and just labor conditions. Aligned with black conscious principles, groups like the Black Allied Workers Union, BAWU, and the Black Parents Association mobilized black workers to stand up against exploitative labor practices. In 1973, Durban saw a wave of strikes involving over 100,000 black workers who, inspired by black consciousness ideals, collectively voiced their grievances. This coordinated action shocked the apartheid government and underscored the influence of black consciousness in mobilizing black workers. These labor strikes, which marked a turning point in black resistance, demonstrated that black consciousness had succeeded in spreading its ideals beyond educational and social spheres into the economic realm. By motivating workers to challenge apartheid's economic structure, black consciousness strengthened the movement and increased the pressure on the apartheid regime. Black consciousness also supported resistance by initiating community projects that encouraged self-reliance and independence from white-dominated institutions. After Steve Biko's banishment to King William's Town, he shifted his focus toward developing community-oriented programs that offered black South Africans resources without white aid. These initiatives included the Zanempilo Health Clinic, the Ginsberg Educational Trust, and the Zimela Trust Fund, which provided medical, educational, and economic support to black communities. By creating these self-sustaining programs, black consciousness showed black South Africans that they could build and support their own communities without relying on white assistance. These initiatives were not only practical, but also symbolic, embodying black consciousness' message of self-empowerment. They demonstrated that black communities could operate independently and with dignity, which undermined apartheid's narrative that black South Africans were inferior and dependent on white control. Through these projects, black consciousness continued to challenge apartheid by fostering a sense of unity, independence, and resilience within black communities. Perhaps the most striking demonstration of black consciousness' impact on resistance was its influence on the Soweto Uprising of 1976. In 1975, the apartheid government enforced Afrikaans as a medium of instruction in schools, a policy that black students and teachers widely opposed because it symbolized the language of their oppressors. By this time, black consciousness philosophy had become widespread, and its ideals were well known among students, many of whom had been exposed to Biko's teachings through SASO and SASM. These organizations, deeply influenced by black consciousness, helped establish the Soweto Students' Representative Council, SSRC, which organized student-led protests against the Afrikaans policy. On June 16, 1976, thousands of students gathered for a peaceful protest in Soweto, challenging the apartheid education system. The government responded with violence, leading to the tragic death of 13-year-old Hector Peter's son and sparking widespread outrage. The Soweto Uprising, heavily influenced by black consciousness, marked a turning point in the anti-apartheid struggle, drawing global attention to the brutality of the apartheid regime and solidifying youth as key players in the resistance movement. This event illustrated how deeply black consciousness had permeated South African society, transforming black youth into active agents of change and setting the stage for continued resistance. Additionally, sympathetic media played a critical role in amplifying the message of black consciousness. Newspapers like The World aligned with the black consciousness philosophy and published stories that highlighted the injustices faced by black South Africans. These publications provided coverage of black consciousness activities, including community projects, student activism, and labor strikes, allowing black consciousness message to reach a broader audience. By publicizing stories of oppression and resistance, the media helped sustain the movement's momentum and spread black consciousness ideals to those who may not have been directly involved in black consciousness movement organizations. The support of these publications was crucial in maintaining public awareness and fostering unity, further strengthening the movement's ability to challenge the apartheid government. In conclusion, the black consciousness movement, under the leadership of Steve Biko, was instrumental in filling the political void created by the banning of the ANC and PAC in the 1960s. Through political organization, labor activism, community projects, and its role in the Soweto Uprising, black consciousness reinvigorated the anti-apartheid struggle, challenging the apartheid government in new and profound ways. By promoting a philosophy of pride, self-reliance, and independence, the Black consciousness movement provided Black South Africans with a powerful alternative to internalized oppression, fostering a sense of identity and empowerment. The movement's widespread influence demonstrated the power of ideological resistance in combating systemic oppression, proving that Black consciousness was more than just a philosophy. It was a catalyst for enduring resistance against apartheid.
To access more learning and exam preparation materials, go to www.acemyexams.coza. This link is also in the video description below. Thank you for watching this video. Remember to subscribe and be the first to know when we upload new videos.